A warm welcome to Anuradha Vedic Astrology. Today we are going to see how two karakas of Saturn express themselves in the 12 houses. But before that, a big thanks to all of you for liking, sharing and subscribing to our YouTube and Spotify channels and writing in your comments and suggestions there. If you haven't subscribed to our channels, please do, and remember to press the bell icon so that you can get the updates ASAP. So, Uttar Kalamrita in 8th chapter on karakas very specifically mentions so many karakas for each of the planets that it is mind-boggling, and their expression in the 12 houses is very beautiful. So, we are going to start with Saturn in our series and just work with two karakas so that we can expand them, we can look into them in great detail and depth as the author would definitely want us to go about. So, when we look into the shlokas related to Saturn, the first two karakas that we come across are obstruction and ill health. So, Saturn does stand for ill health and obstruction. And how would it translate in the 12 houses? Well, let us begin with the Lagna itself. When we talk about Saturn being placed in the Lagna, what is the kind of obstruction it can bring to us? Well, it can give us a very slow pace of doing things. We may be very thorough, but our way of doing things can be very slow, and so we might find it difficult to keep in pace with the world at large. It can bring about a problem in our self growth because our confidence level can be obstructed. We can be low on confidence until and unless this Saturn is aspected by Jupiter. When we talk about the ill health part, the basic constitution or the immune system, or if we can say our entire health system, can be a little weak, and we can have problems in growth in life because the Lagna talks about a robust or otherwise a weak health system. Saturn here obstructs in its growth and hence gives one a weak health system. When we talk about the second house, which relates to finance, family and education, Saturn sitting here in the second house can obstruct our education. That is, there can be a break in a person's education. A person may take a long time to earn a lot of wealth, and that is going to happen slowly and steadily only. A person may have to take a break from his studies to earn for his family members. He can have a lot of responsibility relating to his family, which can create problems in his going out and earning also. When we talk about ill health, Saturn can give you specs or spectacles or your glasses, reading glasses, as it may obstruct your vision. It can narrow down your vision. It can also give you a small face. Your eating capacity, which is relating to the second house, can be restricted also. When we come to the third house, the third house is the house of your courage and creativity and your speech on a public level. So, on those grounds, Saturn may restrict or obstruct in your growth. That is, you may not be able to take a courageous decision instantaneously. You may need to process it for a long time before you take a courageous decision. Also, it is quite capable of giving you a speech that is restricted. You may not want to talk a lot in the family circles or in a public place. What more, you can have hearing impediments, and you can have a lot of problem in expressing your creativity to others. As far as ill health is concerned, I already said about hearing impediments, and it is a possibility that a person can have issues related to their windpipe or can have issues related to their jaws. When we talk about the 4th house is your house of emotions. It is also the house of your primary education. It is the house of your mother. So, all these areas can be affected by Saturn in case of being obstructing your primary education. So, children may have a primary education a little late in life. Such people can have problems in building their homes because 4th house also denotes your home. So, Saturn sitting there might obstruct you in owning a house or making a house. Sitting in the 4th house, Saturn can give you chest related issues, like somebody can have asthmatic issues, somebody can have pneumonia, mother's health can be also compromised. Let us move to the 5th house. Saturn sitting in the 5th house can give one problems or obstructions in having children. Your ability to use your intelligence quickly and sharply can be quite diminished. Also, Saturn in the 5th house gives you a long time before you make yourself a public figure. Saturn in the 5th house can give illness relating to the stomach, and it can give gastric problems, it can give slow absorption of food, which can result in feeling of heaviness after the intake of food. When we talk about the 6th house, which relates to our working abilities, our money matters, and the 6th house is also connected with workers. So, we might get slow workers who can by a lot defer the work, or they can reduce, you can extend the work time period of a work, causing obstruction in earning that amount of money. Or you could get projects which are heavy in nature, which are huge in nature, time consuming, and you will need to complete them after a long period of time. When we talk about the illnesses of the 6th house, we see that people can have a lot of issues relating to the kidneys also, and people, Saturn in 6th house is generally being the karaka of the 6th house, and 6th house being the house of illness. Saturn, if it sits there, actually increases our illness quotient, and that is for a person quite challenging. Let us move on to the 7th house. The 7th house is the public platform and our partners. So, a person can find a little long in getting a partner. We know that for a fact. The Saturn associated with the 7th house gives delayed marriages. When we talk about a public standing, which the 7th house does give us, it may take a long time before a person may find a public platform so that they can move higher up in life. As far as the illnesses of the 7th house is concerned, it talks about your sexual diseases, sexual problems. It can also cause impotency, and Saturn in the 7th house can also give kidney related issues. When we talk about the 8th house is the house of hereditary, and it is also the house of hereditary diseases. So, the obstruction could be in getting the hereditary property. One may get an old property, one may get a property that may not value much, and these are the problems that Saturn expresses when it is sitting in the 8th house. As far as illness is concerned, I have made a video specifically on Saturn in the 8th house, and when Saturn is placed in the 8th house, it does give one illnesses which are chronic in nature and which can last for a long period of time. Let us talk about the 9th house. When Saturn is placed in the 9th house, it can give obstruction in a father-son relation. How so? It can cause a shyness, it can cause a limited talking with the or relationship with the father, with the mentor or the guru, which can be problematic for people. They may not be able to express themselves well in those relationships. let's talk about the higher studies. Saturn here can take you away for higher studies, or it can cause obstruction in your higher studies for many reasons. And I have generally seen when Saturn is associated with the second lord, when it is associated with Jupiter or Venus, then it can give you money. Saturn Venus is a classic combination of money. Saturn Jupiter is a classic combination of things taking form in life, but it does obstruct education. Let's continue and see the illness that Saturn can bring in the 9th house. The 9th house is related to our hip bones. It is related to the area below the navel and especially the bone area around that. And Saturn sitting in this house can give hip dislocation, it can give problems in those areas, it can also cause a lot of issues in your anus and other areas. Let's move to the 10th house. When we talk about the 10th house is in the natural zodiac Saturn's own house, and it is your house of karma. Saturn sitting here can give you a delay in getting a job, starting off in your profession. It can give you an old boss who can be very disciplined and can cause a lot of delays in your problem. Saturn and can obstruct your projects also. He would probably want a lot of things to be done in the right manner before he passes your project and you are actually free of a certain project. And Saturn in this area in form of illness can probably cause problems in your thigh bones. It can also give you problems in circulation over that place, because Saturn can also restrict circulation. So such people are asked to sit on a surface by folding their legs to assist in circulation. Same goes when Saturn in the 10th house very nicely shows your knees also. So such people can have missing lubrication. They can be lacking the lubrication in their knees. As a result, they can have pain in their knees, and that can require a knee replacement surgery also. Let's move on to the 11th house. In the 11th house, Saturn can show obstruction in your gains. Typically, when Saturn is associated with your 11th house, it will take you a long time to have gains in life. It may so happen that you will have to work for a long period of time before you finally see the light. And yes, once the gains start coming, they will be there. But to reach that, the obstruction works until unless you put in hard work. There is Saturn standing in your way through and through before you can reach that pot of gold. You may want to be a part of a society, but you may not get admission in it for a long period of time, because there may be certain compliances that you may not be doing. So that is what Saturn here is trying to tell you, to work on certain compliance methods also. As far as illness is concerned, Saturn is the classical Badhakesh, and here in the 11th house it defines it all the more. And so Saturn in this 11th house can cause a lot of obstruction, not by giving you the disease, but not letting you recover. Ideally, it also gives you a lot of problems with your legs, that is varicose veins and all those problems. There can be a lot of pain, it can restrict your movement also. When Saturn is in the 12th house, people can have flat foot. In the 11th house, it can give you bow legs. In the 12th house, it can give you flat foot. It can give you sensations on your foot, and what more, there can be fractures, there can be sprain when Saturn's period is operating and it's in your 12th house. In the 12th house, Saturn can obstruct your journey abroad, and if it is afflicted, one may find it difficult to pass through certain regulations to make the journey abroad, or Saturn can here make you a recluse also. So we saw that in all the 12 houses, Saturn has a way of expressing itself, as Uttar Kalamrit in just first two words of its Karaka list of Saturn says, illness and obstruction. Saturn is a planet that does obstruct only till you follow its command and become straight-laced, follow the dictates well. Then Saturn is all giving, but illness is something that you will have to battle when Saturn is sitting in a particular house. Do write to us, do let us know how it fits the bill for you and for others around you. Till we meet with you again, stay
Please
safe.
hit the bell icon
Thank you.
for fresh updates. Don't forget to like, share and comment on the videos, and please subscribe to our channel.